New York City, man. I had to do my show today with this beautiful backdrop from my hotel room in Manhattan, a few blocks from Madison Square Garden. You're watching Mets Daily. I'm your host, Jake Brown at Jake Brown Live. Smash that thumbs up on this video right now. Hit that subscribe, hit that share button, share Mets Daily. Mets Daily Show is where we are on X, and I'm at Jake Brown Live on X. Keep on commenting. We'll read your comments on the end of the show. Great job from Ernest Dove yesterday. Really long show, which I hate to do shows that long, but just a remarkable conversation. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you didn't watch that, go back, watch that. We talk about every prospect many you don't know about, no one is talking about, that Ernest watches for a living. So check out Ernest. Steve Cohen has shouted. Ernest Dove's the only creator that Steve Cohen shouted out positively on Twitter. And I want to say this about Steve Cohen. Alex Cohen getting rid of her Instagram, social media. Of course, you had some people attacking, saying, of course, they're hiding. They got their casino. Listen, when there are people that are asking you on social media for money, as there were Alex Cohen, and asking you for tickets, and asking you for jobs, and just the volatility that you see on the internet from a portion of Mets fans attacking the Cohen family, why would she stay on Instagram? Like, what's the point? She talked about focusing on time. She's going to have a grandkid, her daughter's getting married, all these good things happening for her and the family. Yet you still have the same kind of people who are commenting on posts about her statement with negativity and pointing out exactly why she got rid of her social media. Listen, the Cohens are Mets fans. Alice Cohen's dad is a Mets fan. She would love him to win a World Series before he passes. He's in his 90s. Time's running short. Steve Cohen wants to win a World Series. He's a lifelong Mets fan. They're not putting a team together just to sell tickets and have the casino happen in 2030. Obviously, the casino's happening. I think it's great news for the area. It's great news for Steve Cohen. It's great news for Queens. It's great news for New York. The reality is that's not what this is all about. And if you're one of those idiots who buys into, I don't even know what you're buying into because it's just fake, that Cohen got his casino, now it doesn't matter. Don't be dumb. Just don't be dumb. And leave them alone. Like, there's a portion of the fan base that's driven the Mets owner off of social media. That's how volatile it's gotten. Let's see the offseason play out, and even then, don't attack people. But let's see first what the roster looks like on March 27 when I go to my 23rd straight home opener with my dad. Let's see what they look like before we say, Cohen got his casino, now nothing matters. You guys sound like idiots who's saying that. You sound stupid. You sound like you have low IQ. So let's get smarter. Let's get rational. And let's talk Mets. Kyle Tucker's the name we've been talking about a lot. And, the latest on Kyle Tucker is that his market is a mystery. And he might take a short-term high AAV deal. And I think that's what the Mets are dreaming of. And listen, I think Kyle Tucker, to me, is overrated. I don't think he's that good. But with the caveat of would I take him at a high AAV 3-year deal? Yes. I don't think Kyle Tucker's worth an 8 to 10 year deal. But if you can get him on 3, even if it is $35 million a year plus, I think in the short term it's worth it because the Mets have a hole in the outfield and you have Kyle Tucker behind Juan Soto. So I do think it's worth the Mets getting this done. But if Toronto's like, we'll give you 6 years for the same money the Mets are giving you, he's going to go to Toronto. And the Blue Jays are a team all in on winning a World Series right now. Now, not saying the Mets aren't, but if you look at the Mets and the Blue Jays right now, it's obviously not even close. The Blue Jays are a far better team than the New York Mets. So we're not living in la-la land here. We understand that right now the Mets, as currently constructed, if they did not make another move, are not sniffing the playoffs. I understand that. I think a lot of people think I think it's all roses. The Mets stink right now. The Mets roster right now is the ceiling probably similar, 83 wins, probably less, in the 75 to 83 win range as currently constructed, maybe 83s being generous. So I understand they have to get a starting pitcher, which we'll talk about one in a second. They have to get at least an outfielder. And I still think they need a first baseman. There's a name I'll talk about this week that's not that exciting, but a name I've thought about. By the way, I'm holding basically a mini desk on top of a bed to get this angle right now in the room. So my right hand is currently holding this desk and laptop up. So if it's a little shaky, that's the reason why. But, yeah, Kyle Tucker would be awesome. And I just think the Mets want him at the right amount of years. And I do think the CBA potential changes and potential lockout next year are having a factor on all these. This isn't just a Mets thing. Now, I know some teams like the Blue Jays have given out a 7-year deal to Dylan Cease, but you're not seeing many long-term deals. Like Imai, 2 years. Akamoto, 4 years. Murakami, 2 years. Not many 6 or 7 year deals. Soderstrom got a long one because they got him at bargain basement prices for the Athletics before he hit arbitration. That's how they got that done. The Braves were famous for doing that. So you're just not seeing long-term deals. So it's not just a Mets thing. I think people want to just think, oh, the Mets are being cheap. They're being stingy. It's been the whole league. But again, Tucker, 3-year deal, I'm in if you can pull it off. My gut still thinks he's going to go to Toronto, though. But we'll see. You know, the asking price for a starting pitcher we just talked about, Freddy Peralta, is a little bit too high for me. Now, we don't know the exact amount, but reportedly the Brewers are asking for a lot for him. And if that means you have to give up Sproat, Tong, and more, I don't know if it's worth it for 1 year. Listen, the Mets are building this long-term plan. We talked about it with Ernest yesterday, how many good prospects they have. How many good prospects they have that no one's talking about. A few names that he mentioned yesterday, you could watch the video and see, like a Will Watson. The other names he said are slipping my mind, but he's great at that. But those guys that aren't even in the top 20 Mets prospects that he's talking about that people aren't. So do you want to mortgage the farm for a year of Peralta? You're doing that if you fully expect the Mets to contend for a World Series. And listen, you want to contend for a World Series, but in reality, are the Mets a Freddy Peralta from a World Series? No. So I just don't think for the long-term vision of this team and continued success. Now, I think you should trade prospects to get pieces, but to get 1 year of a guy who, let's be honest, Freddy Peralta is a great pitcher. Is he one of the best pitchers in the sport? Like, do we look at him in the same vein as a Skubal? No. So, as much as I would like a Freddy Peralta, I'm not giving up the farm for 1 year of him. And I don't think the Mets are either, just because Stearns worked in Milwaukee. So, we'll see how the Freddy Peralta situation plays out. But if it's too many names to give up, don't do it. I don't think they should do it. Now, it sounds easy to say, just go sign Tucker and Valdez. But again, that's $60 million right there between the two. So if they did that, that's probably their roster. And they would probably end up having to trade Senga to shed that money, or Peterson. I could see the Mets maybe trading Peterson, keeping Senga, and signing Valdez and Tucker. And that's their offseason, and they get a few depth cheap bats. A depth, cheap first baseman, maybe a Goldschmidt, to play a little bit with Polanco at first. But we'll see. A couple moves the Mets did make, not very exciting. The Mets have signed infielder Christian Arroyo and right-hand pitcher Robinson Martinez to minor league deals. And listen, not much to write home about. Arroyo, was a first-round pick in the 2013 draft. He has played in the big leagues. Last was with the Red Sox in 2023. Has had some cups of pretty good coffee. In 2022 with the Red Sox in 87 games, 6-36, hit 286, 3-24, 241, 2023. Nothing really to write home about across 7 years in the big leagues. But again, a depth option. It's played all over the infield, plays a little bit outfield. So the Mets adding a lot of depth in the minor leagues. In case guys get hurt, they have guys that have positional flexibility. Robinson Martinez has pitched really well in winter ball. 3.52 ERA, 19 strikeouts, 15 1/3 innings. He was a member of the Orioles last year, 4.76 ERA, over 22 and 2/3 inning across two levels. So both guys will probably be in AAA for the Mets. Probably won't make it, but again, depth pieces. I know that excites absolutely nobody. But, we got to tell you what's going on. And unfortunately, that's the only thing in terms of signings going on. Here on Tuesday, January 6, 2025, welcome to Mets Daily. We're going to close out the show with reading your comments. I believe today, guys, I got to confirm, I believe this is the 1 year anniversary of the show. I'm seeing if we started on the 6th or the 7th last year. I'm looking back now, but I believe this is the 1 year. No, tomorrow, excuse me. January 7th. So we'll celebrate the 1 year anniversary of Mets Daily tomorrow, January 7th tomorrow. So let's get to your comments now before we celebrate tomorrow, the 1 year anniversary. All right, from Ernest Dove's show yesterday, make sure you check that out. Arcade Perfect Reviews 2653 says, great show. I feel like the youth will have an impact on this team this year. Yeah, the youth can have an impact on this team this year partly. And the youth is going to have a big impact moving forward, guys. Like Christian Scott is ready. And Christian Scott, like I've talked about, is the number one prospect. Is he a what if? What if? Yes. But if he's good, that's a guy no one's talking about. McLean's going to have an impact. If Sproat or Tong is here, you're going to see them at some point this year. Dylan Ross, who we talked about yesterday, you're going to see this year. Ryan Clifford, you're going to see probably either late this year or next year. Like, a lot of guys are going to have an impact. From Mets Daily Insider member Shakamoto, Ernest, great episode. Agree with you, Jake. We need you and Ernest in the conversation on the mics more often. I always learn a lot from you, too. Appreciate that, Shakamoto. Yeah, I'm going to try to, I don't want to pester Ernest too much. I think he enjoys coming on. We'll try to make it happen once a month, at the very least once every 2 months, because we need check-ins with Ernest all year long. So looking forward to that. He always has really good insight. And listen, this guy's got sources. People want to, crap on people like, you don't know sources. I don't have many sources per se. I know a lot of people behind the scenes, and I learn things, and I know a lot of what happens clubhouse-wise, player-wise, stuff like that. I've heard things, and I know people. I'm not someone who's texting someone in the Mets front office, but I hear things and I know people. But he knows people internally. He's the guy that knows people internally, so he is good to have on. I mean, when Steve Cohen shouting you out on Twitter, you know people internally. Mr. Automatic says, why is Tyrone Taylor on the squad? He cannot hit. Listen, Tyrone Taylor is not a good hitter, but I think Tyrone Taylor is a valuable backup outfielder, has some speed. I think he's a good fourth or fifth outfielder to have. But yes, he should not be starting. From Ivan Corey, he said, great guess. I appreciate Stern's plan. I agree with the long-term view. Yeah, he's great. And listen, it's about the long-term vision as well. People, there's other comments in here, Stearns, arrogant, this, that, hate him, blah, blah, blah. Stearns knows what he's doing, and we have to trust him because, this is a top 5 farm system in baseball. That's not easy to put together. Now, we need to see them play out. In the end, their prospects are in some ways lottery tickets. But baseball doesn't evaluate a team's prospects like that if they're not actually any good. So the Mets have a lot of good young talent. And I know that's not funny here because you want a Juan Soto at every position or a star at every position. But that's just not reality. Teams, again, I will point to the Toronto Blue Jays. Look how many ragtag players that nobody heard of that stepped up for them. And now, look, they're spending. So if the Mets could have some youth step up to them, they'll go out and give a big contract to Skubal next winter if there's baseball and there's no lockout. But, they're not going to go balls to the wall and pay guys who probably aren't worth it for 7-year deals, 6-year deals. Dana Abrams, great show. LGM, appreciate it, Dana. Scott Miller says, biggest question, who's going to protect Soto? Yeah, I mean, maybe it's Kyle Tucker. I think a Kyle Tucker or Yandy Diaz, to me, makes a lot of sense to protect Soto. Mike O'Brien says, trade Senga and Vientos for Walker and a reliever. Yeah, I mean, listen, I mentioned that yesterday, a Senga for Walker trade. Yeah, if you can get a good reliever from Houston as well, I think you probably have to include someone, whether it's Acuna, Vientos, or someone else. But to me, the money lines up. It makes sense. The question is, do the Mets want someone at first base of that bad where Polanco could just be more of a DH? It feels like their focus is more in the outfield and not first base, which makes me a little mad. I think they should, again, Yandy Diaz is the guy, like a DH first baseman, right-hand hitter. But we'll see. Who knows? We don't know their plan, guys. Again, we talk about this every day. People say clickbait this. Don't make the headlines. And by the way, the headlines are so similar every day that if you're new here, you're just learning. They do it every day. So you got to just get over it. I understand there's nothing game-changing, groundbreaking, game-changer, blah, blah, blah. I don't. That's what this business is about. It's about getting views. Sorry. If you don't like it, then don't watch, but they're going to continue to do it. See, guys, I knew that would happen, that the... We're going to end the show on that. The mic disconnected. I'm standing on a, I wish you could see this angle for this great view. But I'm standing, the mic unplugged. We're going to end the show on that. Smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. Jake Brown Live. We'll talk to you tomorrow on our 1-year anniversary of Mets Daily. Appreciate the support, everybody. Let's go, Mets.